the connecting point. I am Dr. Marcy, your facilitator for this discussion today. And this is the place where creators connect to inspire, share their ideas and stories, to change the world through raw and unedited talk. And today out there, I am joined by a great person, a great creator, a colleague. And so, I've got to just say hands down, one of the best band teachers we have. And his name is Brian Lyles. Welcome to the Connecting Point, Brian.
Thank you so very much for having me.
And Brian, I do have to tell the connecting point because there's always a point of connection. And that's what this platform is about, making those connections to better the world. So the connecting point here, everyone, is, like I just said, this is a colleague of mine. He is also the band teacher of the high school in my cluster, the Mighty Raiders, Mays Raiders, yes. So that is the connecting point here. We work in the same school system, the same cluster. So we are familiar with the demographics of where we teach.
Absolutely.
Now, Mr. Lyles, will you just give the audience a little background on who you are, where you're from, and how you end up where you are now?
Yeah, well, I am a military brat. My father was in the military for many years, and I kind of just bounced around from one place, but I got most of my adolescent years in Montgomery, Alabama. So I moved to Montgomery, Alabama in the 6th grade. I was born in, people joke all the time because I was born in Great Falls, Montana. Like, I never heard
Great Falls?
Great Falls, Montana, yes. And from Great Falls, Montana, we moved to Rome, New York, then Germany, and then back to Montana, and then finally Alabama. So after I moved to Alabama in the 6th grade, graduated high school there, then went to Alabama A&M University on a band scholarship. And then from there, graduated straight out of there. I was a student assistant in grad school, and then I became the chief music arranger for the marching band program at Alabama A&M University. And I was also K-12 teacher in the school system in Huntsville City Schools. And then once I left there, came to Georgia, and here I am.
I didn't know all that. That's some good information.
Yeah. So along the way, I've done a few. I started my publishing company, which is Brian Lyles Publishing, and through that, I create. That's where the creating comes in. So I do all of my production through my production company, and that entails music arrangements, full band arrangements, as well as live production for any type of ensemble. I've got people I work with regularly, beats that I make for various clients, and trying to get my hands in the film scoring at this point. Yeah, so that's where I am on the creative side.
So, I'm glad you mentioned all of that, because a lot of people think you end up where you end up by just happenstance, but that's not the case. You have done a lot of different things. You taught in a lot of different areas, and I never knew you were in were you in elementary school? You just
middle
said?
School. Yeah, I taught middle school. Yeah.
Middle school.
Yeah,
okay.
So I taught middle school for 12 years.
Okay.
Well, actually 13 years. And then I became a high school band director after that.
Middle school is only for the brave.
Well, I tell you what, if you can do middle school, especially in the demographic that I was in, you really set up for success anywhere, because that's where you learn how to start people from scratch, and those pedagogy that you go through to get a student to be able to put the instrument to the mouth and be able to hold it correctly and create that quality sound, it follows you even in high school, because a lot of students need that as well. They're not all coming to you packaged properly, and so you have to roll your sleeves up and do the work as well. So that middle school piece really helped with that.
I agree, and when I look at some of the younger teachers, and I think about when I was a younger teacher, what it looked like. That many over 20 something years ago, I had to walk into a classroom where I had to create lessons. I didn't have quality books, that taught what I wanted them to teach. So I had to create.
Yeah.
And out of that, you do get some, war stripes,
Yes,
if I
indeed.
can call it that. And you have to be thrown in the fire. Listen, I went when I did my student teaching, I was over there off of I was in the hood. Let's just
Okay.
say that.
Okay.
Where at night you didn't travel over there.
Oh
And
yeah, gotcha.
so I was able to work with those children and just gain some insight on what it took
Yeah.
to be a good teacher. And
Yeah.
it's not all, books.
No,
We have to
no,
be
it's a
parents, we have to be
that's right.
counselors, we have
That's
all
right.
of that good
Right.
stuff, and
That's
still
right.
pick ourselves up and carry on so that we don't drop.
It's a
So
labor
yeah,
of love,
it
and
is.
and as it was taught, I come from a long line of educators,
Mhm.
and I've always heard them say that it's a passion, it's a calling, and a lot of people get into the profession because of what they may have seen or somebody that may have inspired them along the way, but once you get into it and you start really having to deal with all of the aspects of the profession, you
Mhm.
really do have to have a certain love for the
Yes.
profession, and you have to have a desire to want to help others far beyond just your musical group. So it's not
Right.
just about me standing on the podium and waving my arms with my tuxedo on and looking like I'm somebody. There's a whole nother layer
Yes,
that
it
goes
is.
into you getting to the point where you can just wave your arms and look like you somebody, right? That's
Right.
the icing on the cake, but there's a whole lot that goes on
Ooh, Lord.
on the lower level to get to
Yeah.
that point. Yeah.
Yeah. And audience, before we even click the record button on this, we were just discussing that what it takes to even put on one performance. Let's talk about just
Wonderful.
one
Just
performance.
one.
Just one. We need listen. Oh my God. I think we probably need to look at that today,
Yes, absolutely.
to bring awareness to what it entails for, first of all, we are creators, which we've already said. We are artists of some type. We have families.
That's right.
Uh, we have a life.
Yes,
But
yes.
outside of that, we also are not, I won't even say required, we are expected to do a certain number of performances a year. And when you're doing a performance, one performance could take, let's say, months of
Yes, right.
preparation. I'm just being real. Am I telling the truth, Mr.
That is
Lyles?
correct. That is correct. That's correct. We look at it's so interesting, especially on the high school level. We get asked to perform all over the place, and I always have to. It's a teachable moment when I interact with different promoters and different event planners who have these elaborate ideas. I have to kind of bring them back to reality. Like, okay, that's a great idea. However, these are some of the areas that we're going to have concern with in order to make that happen. And usually we find a middle ground to where everybody who's participating has a positive experience. Because I'm all about students having a positive experience with me. I would hate for somebody to come into my program and just be turned off completely. So I want to try to create those moments where it's a memorable, lasting, positive experience for everybody. So that's why I take the time to explain to those involved in the event process, the planning process. Hey, just take these things into consideration. Sometimes I may ask for them to provide, because a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, we'll just give them a bottle of water and send them on their way." Well, some of these kids need more than just a bottle. They may need a full meal.
Full
You
meal,
know,
that's right.
yeah, we need quality transportation. We need you to make contact with us periodically so we have a full understanding of what we're walking into. And then exactly what you need. So if you want us to play one song, or do you want us to play 10 songs? Or are we playing for 30 minutes? Or are we playing for an hour? Because that changes the way we prepare for your event,
That's right.
you know?
That's right.
Yeah, so it's a learning process across the board, especially when you're dealing with students, because we have students who are, especially, let's just talk about the students, that we usually teach are more the students who are doing great in all of the things in the school. So they may
Mhm.
be pulled from
Right.
not only your group, they may be pulled to another organization, and then I have to work with this particular organization to make sure that this child can be here for this particular event. So we're planning all of these things just so you can have that moment that you envisioned.
That one moment.
That one moment. We are juggling all these things. You have literally however many personalities you have in your program. That's how many personal lives that you have to cater to in order to make that a success. I call us magicians. Not musicians, magicians.
The audience, like Mr. Lyles, he's in high school, so his dynamics look totally different from mine. I'm in elementary school, and I have always had this belief that it is my duty and calling, actually, to expose my students to as much as possible. So by the time they do reach middle and high school, they have a clear understanding of what it is they want to do, that what instrument they want to pick up, what group they want to be involved in. But I, as an elementary music integrationist, it is my job to give them opportunity to explore instrument playing, singing, dancing, all of it, so that they can understand what it is that they want to do. Now, in preparing for programs like Mr. Lyles has said, one experience, I have to start months ahead.
Yeah.
Of planning. And don't be a creator like us now, where we trying to create the whole. Listen, creating, like writing scripts and getting out of it. Please believe it is not an easy task.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in a workshop amongst specialist teachers some years ago, and one teacher said, "You know what? I know what the problem is. We make it look too easy."
And I've heard that so many times throughout my career that is our Achilles heel. We are always rising to the occasion. We are always bringing to the table exactly what you asked for. And I think that in turn makes it look like it really is easy. And so when we have this disconnect, especially if you're a non-musician, if you've never had the experience of music, then I can understand why you have the disconnect. But there are so many layers, that go into what we do, back to what we were originally saying. And so I think that when we finally do pull it off, like for instance, I've had students even in the high school setting who have never played an instrument before, and they go through a full season, and now they're doing full field shows, they're doing full concerts, and people say, "Oh man, it's easy." No, it's a discipline.
It's a discipline,
and it's a type of student that can handle that rigorous schedule, that rigorous training. There's certain kids that we seek out, especially at your level. You guys start right there, seeing it early on. And then that talent is cultivated throughout the process.
Right.
To get to me.
To get to the high school.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
And let's not even mention when a whole program is done away with for some years. And then you have to, because listen, I know a lot of music educators can relate to this in whatever school system you're in. They sometimes will just do away. Because I remember when we had no band program in the elementary schools, period. And I saw that as just something, I said, I just cannot believe this. And they're expecting these kids to play when they get to high school. So my answer to that was, who is doing it? Who will bring that in here? And so I had to reach out to a nonprofit organization to come into the schools where I taught to provide that band. So I'm not a band specialist, so I didn't know what to do, but I knew who to ask to get it done. And now we're dealing with that again. Absolutely. With the strings program. With all of it's gone, in elementary. So
hold on, I gotta pause for 1 second.
Just to while Mr. Lyles is taking a break from the screen, we're having this discussion to bring awareness to what it takes for music specialists of any kind to put together performances, the things that we have to go through, the support that we need to make our program successful. But anyway, okay, go ahead, Mr. Lyles.
I'm sorry, that's my son. Everybody who knows me knows I have my little fella, and he needs me
Yes,
right there. Yeah, my little 5-year-old. He's at Beecher now. Yeah, but
yes.
he needed me at that moment. But yeah, so the thing about um what I'm seeing a strong need for is more love in the middle school and elementary programs. They need more love, more attention, more opportunities. I think that if a student in the middle school area, an elementary area, has the opportunity to go on maybe one big trip at the end of the school year, or have multiple performances throughout the school year, it'll make more sense to them as to why it's important for them to continue on. I've noticed, um, even when I taught middle school, I took a big trip every year. We had, one big performance in the fall, one big performance in the spring, and maybe one or two little small little things here or there. And I noticed as time went on, those were the students that would stay in the program from sixth grade all the way up. In Alabama, we didn't have fourth and fifth grade band. We just had 6 through 8 and then 9 through 12. But those were your strongest kids in the high school level. I think that nowadays the problem that I see is that when a student doesn't necessarily have that experience, and they think they want to be a part of it because of the glitz and the glamour, and oh, everybody look like they're having fun, when they finally get into it and they realize, oh, this is a lot of work.
Work. Mhm.
Oh, and I got to come to practice every day for how many hours? If you're starting at a certain age with that mindset of never having to do that, it can be a shock. And it can be a shock for parents as well, because parents sometimes don't necessarily understand. And it's not that they don't want their child to be a part, but they didn't really understand what they were signing up for. So we have to start early with those pieces. And I think giving our lower levels a little bit more love, give them a little more attention, give them a little bit more opportunity to grow, I think that will in turn make everybody participating stronger.
Yeah, it's really it's a let me put it this way. There's a lot of hoop jumping we have to do
Yeah.
to even get programs to be consistent, especially when you're looking in elementary. I can only speak to myself and my own experiences from when I first started as a teacher. I've seen the school system change drastically in terms of the time that's allotted to do these programs. I know when I first started, I was in charge of my own schedule. This is before we had reform models. And so I was able to build on drumming. I did drumming, I did piano, I did chorus. I had an hour. Can you imagine that in elementary school? Wow. An hour for chorus, and my choruses always got superior or excellent at festivals. Then as time went on, reform models came in, and specialist teachers were not in charge of their schedules anymore. And so that time dwindled to either you're going to have these extra groups before school hours or after. Now let's think about this as a parent, and I'm a single mom who have kids herself who are very involved in the arts. What does that look like?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm just a mom that's not going to sacrifice her own children. What does that look like? I don't think God would be happy with me to sacrifice my own children.
Yeah.
To do over here. Now, where's the balance? And sometimes we cannot find that balance because of that. And choices have to be made. I often tell new teachers, younger teachers, especially when they have more than one school. I normally have more than one school that I service. To keep the balance there, stick to that school while you're in it.
Yeah.
So that you're not overwhelmed. When you leave that school to go to the next one, stick to that school. Yeah. Do not try to do too much at one time. And when you leave school, make sure you're doing right by your family. And so sometimes that is difficult to handle.
Yeah.
I remember having the difficulty, but now I'm a pro at it.
Yeah.
I think I'm a pro.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because even in my earlier on in my career, when I was working at Alabama A&M, and I was involved in the college experience, and we're doing all these big things, and then having my middle school program, and then at one point I was split between two schools, so I was going to one school in the morning, another school in the afternoon, and then going to the college in the evenings, and then having to be a father and a husband at home. It was a lot, and it took me a long time to learn how to prioritize,
Yeah.
and compartmentalize and be very effective, like you said, with my time and in the classroom. So if I'm in the classroom, I'm going to work at 100% because I know that when
Right.
I turn those lights off, it's about me and mine.
My family. That's right.
Yeah, yeah. And then I can come back tomorrow refreshed. I know I've done right by my family, and then I can go again and give you another 110%.
Now,
And I
see,
think,
that's how I am too.
yeah,
When I'm at, there will be nobody that says Dr. Simmons done work from the time she walks in the door to the time she leaves. I give it when I'm
yeah,
there, but please don't mess with me when I leave
yeah. And
because
you know but that also is a hard thing to do for us creators.
yes,
You know what I'm saying? Because we are in the profession where we love what we do
do
and
yes,
we enjoy it, and it doesn't, well, for me, it doesn't feel like work. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like when I
yeah,
go to work, and that's one of the things my mother taught me growing up. She said, pick a profession that does not feel like work, and you'll never work a day in your
and
life.
you'll never work. That's right.
And so I come to work every day feeling like, oh, I'm just here to work with some great kids. Let's go.
Mhm.
We go through our process, and I go home. But the problem is, when I get home, I still want to create.
You still want to create, but you gotta,
You got to have that balance.
yeah, you gotta have the balance.
And then you got to give yourself rest and
Yes.
relaxation and rejuvenation so that you can have the space to be open to do the
Mhm.
things, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
this is a definite calling. It's not for everybody. And I think that once you find somebody who has the ability to do all those things, you got something great.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you got something
And
great.
I wanted to talk a little bit too about some of the things. Can you talk about some of the things that you um, encounter as you plan for these spectacular band performances? And
Yeah,
football season. That's when we're looking at that band. We
yeah.
got to hear that band in the stands. What are some of the things that you encounter from the beginning of planning it up until that actual performance?
Well, one of the things that I always try to consider is people's time, and I think one of the best advice, one of the best pieces of advice that I received was that just be flexible. I came up, and I had some great mentors coming up, but I had came up with some mentors who were very old school.
Uh-huh.
So they always were like, "This is my program. You're gonna do it this way, and if you
This
can't do
way.
that, get out." And as time has gone on, that is kind of an old way of doing things, and it doesn't really work for today's kid. You have to be
Right.
flexible, and so I think through this process, I've learned how to say, you know what, I understand you have this private instructor to go to, then you have a job because you have to work, and then you have this particular meeting and you have to go to this tutorial. And so what I have to end up doing is I have a conversation with all the students at the beginning of the year, and I say, hey, I am not against you being an ROTC. I'm not against you being in this particular club. I'm not against you trying to be the SGA president. I said, however, you have to understand what you're getting yourself into, because if you're going to start splitting yourself, you need to make sure that you're going, you're being great in everything that you participate in,
Yeah.
And so what I try to do is create an experience where students have the flexibility to go and do those things. Now, why is that important? Because if you don't give them what they need, then they can't give you what you need,
That's right.
right? So that's the first step for me, looking at the student as a whole person and not just a number in my program,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so I start there. But in the beginning of the season, I try to look at the times where students normally take their vacations. So when is my band camp going to be? It can't be at the top of July. Why? Because some people might be on a cruise. They
Mhm.
might have a summer internship. They may have a summer job that doesn't end until just before school starts. So I have
Mhm.
to consider the jobs and the activities that students have going on throughout the summer. And then throughout the process, I try to stay very consistent with my scheduling. Like a lot of times you'll have people who will cancel all the time. They have a practice one day. It's very inconsistent. I try to be extremely consistent so that people can plan around the
Around
schedule.
it, yeah. Yeah.
And even so much so to where, because I coming up again in some programs, you may have practice might go till 7 o'clock, but then you're leaving
Oh,
at
Lord.
9 o'clock because you have a big performance, and that is very. This is gonna sound kind of harsh, but it is true. It's very disrespectful to a parent who may have additional activities going on outside of your rehearsals. So I try to make sure that if my practice stops at 7 o'clock, we're done at 7. So that way your parents can plan accordingly the rest of their lives. You know what I'm saying? So I think in the planning process, I'm just very considerate of people, the whole
The
person.
time.
And then the other piece is obviously classes, and the scheduling of classes. It's very difficult. I'll be honest with you, especially when you have a student who is in the upper echelon. They're the highly academically ranked. They're in the advanced courses, or they may be in dual enrollment. Sometimes those students they get a short end of the stick as it comes to the arts. So I have to have that conversation with them as well. Like, hey, we're going to try to do the best we can to support you throughout your journey, so that way you're not taking a hit on the academic side.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think all in all, I know it's a long response to your question, but I
No.
think all in all, it is extremely important at this point in our lives to think about the child's needs as you plan for your
Absolutely.
program. And I think that you cannot be selfish as a director and say, hey, this is my time. You need to be here, or I'm putting you out, because then you're doing a disservice to the kid who may have a
Right.
talent that he knew nothing about. And he's just a victim of their circumstances. I mean, there's so many things. I have transportation kids. Sometimes they have issues with transportation.
Yes.
And that you shouldn't be put out of a program because you have a transportation problem. So how can we fix that? We go and talk to maybe the counselors and say, hey, do you have some bus passes for these particular kids? Or like we've done this year, we've had parents who volunteered to transport various kids to where they need to be. All of these things are considering the child's well-being and the needs of the child so they can be successful in my program.
Several things that you mentioned, it took me back in my mind of some things that I received as a new teacher, coming into the school system where that's when mentors were, it was really strong. When you came in as a new teacher, the veteran teachers kind of grabbed you and say, hey, this is how we do it. This is it. And I appreciate that kind of training. However, like you just said, as times change though, we have to do things a little differently. I remember putting kids in my car and taking them to honor course because I wanted them to have experiences that were, a little further than
that's right.
Just being in the schools. So I did that for years. Now it's kind of difficult to do that. And from an elementary school perspective, even like the time during the school day is not provided for chorus or anything like that, unless it's before school or after. But then you're looking at a whole population of children whose parents can't bring them early.
That's right.
Whose parents can't pick them up. So as their teacher, I'm looking at what can I do to make sure they get something extra. Right. And so this year I thought about, we have intervention blocks. I know you got one in your school too. We all doing intervention blocks for math and reading. Yeah. And I said, what about an intervention block for the arts? Because we took a heavy hit during the pandemic.
Okay.
We took a heavy hit.
That is a phenomenal idea.
And so I said, I went to my principal. He is, Lord have mercy. I got to shout him out, Dr. Reginald Lawrence, one of the most supportive principals I have been under. I'm just saying. I went to him and I said, I want to do this. What do you think about intervention block? He said, whatever you need, we're going to support it. That was his response to me. And that all, if a principal says that, that's already like, I'm getting ready to do this thing because he said he's going to support me. However, some kids still couldn't stay after.
Yeah.
And I hear all these wonderful singers, throughout the day in my classroom that can really make a chorus sound, but they can't stay with me after school. And so I remember going to him and saying, the principal, and saying, I'm going to have to do something different because a lot of the kids can't do it. He said, how much does it cost? I'll pay for them to do it. And I'm like, I have seen him put kids in his car from the program, take them home. That's the kind of support we need.
Yeah, that's what
if any leaders are listening.
Yeah.
He doesn't make a fuss about it. He don't even say, he probably don't want me to mention him, but I am, because that's the kind of support that specialist teachers need.
Yeah, that's what it takes. It's about the whole child. I mean, I just had to keep
the whole
saying
child.
It's about the whole child, and you cannot dismiss a child because of the circumstances and not allow them to participate because of their circumstances.
Right.
So the more we can do to support the whole child in that process, the better off we'll be in the arts. I mean, the other thing I will say, especially on the middle school, high school level, is, and I see this happening in the future, like for the next couple of years, there's going to be an uptick in the need for private instructors.
Yes.
And so I think that if we can find a way to create some programs to offer those private instructors the ability to come into the school systems and provide their services, I think that's going to create a stronger middle school and high school program. You see it all the time on the more fortunate areas. You know what I mean? But I think doing that and pouring into the individual student will also create an opportunity down the road where you'll see a bigger growth of the ability.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's no different from a child who's deficient in English or math. They get a tutor, right? They get a tutor, and they go to that tutor to get those things taken care of. It's the same thing for an instrumentalist. If we want this child to perform at a particular level and I cannot do it all by myself, or I'm not a specialist in this particular area, then why not bring in the specialist? Okay.
Bring them in.
If we can bring a specialist in, how can we pay for them and offer them some assistance, financially,
Right.
So these are things that our our administrators can look into, that can assist us in offering that some additional support.
Yeah, and it does make a difference. And I do understand that even with that, some parents, they just don't have the transportation to come get them. Even if we had a bus, that could be given, just pay monies to even get buses to come over. And I'm just going to say this too, because this is raw and unedited talk. We have a particular bus driver at one of my schools. You didn't have to ask her.
Yeah.
She wants those children to be in the program. She comes back and get them. What I mean, this is the care that I am seeing at one of my schools, but it came from the head because he's that way.
Yeah.
So I asked the bus driver, I said, I'm gonna have to do something nice for you. She said, no.
Yeah.
I know the parent, I'm gonna pick how many need a ride back to the house. She comes back. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
She brings that bus back. She said, I don't have to be at the high school till a little later. I can come back and get them. And so I just thank those people who go the extra mile. And guess what? Those who bless will be blessed.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I've seen that so many times with even on high school. We've had parents who do the same thing, or drive a bus or something like that, and they will come back and help.
Come back.
It's a community. It's a all hands on
deck
type of affair. And that's what it's going to take in order to really build these programs back to where they were. I think that it's going to take a lot more care and attention to scheduling and ensuring that a student does not have band on the schedule fourth, fifth grade, and then sixth grade, they're not even in a band class at
Not
all.
in, that's right.
And then they fall through the cracks seventh grade, and then they finally get them back in eighth grade, and now you're deficient.
Right.
or you're in band sixth grade, and then you're not in band seventh and eighth grade, and here you are, ninth grade, willy-nilly around. And then, because I'll tell you one thing that's really interesting. I can walk down the hallway, and I can just randomly, I've done it before, randomly say, hey, come here for a minute. Have you ever played an instrument? And they always say, yeah. But what did you play? Violin or trombone or trumpet? I play drum. You know, every kid, for the most part, has probably touched an instrument at some point. And then I ask them, I say, well, why aren't you playing an instrument anymore? And they'll say, well, they took me out. And I've heard that so many times.
I have too.
And I'm like, well, did you ask anybody to put you back in? I said, no, I just thought the band didn't want me.
They didn't know.
And so, and what that is, it's a breakdown in the scheduling.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that if we just spend a little bit more time really trying to go back to the whole child's needs and really have a conversation with I know it's tedious. I know it takes a lot of time, but we have to find a way to actually communicate with the child and ask the child what they want.
Yeah.
And then facilitate that need throughout the process. If we're just sticking
I've
kids
heard
somewhere
that too.
because we're just sticking kids wherever they need to go because we got to fill this position and close it out. I got to get these kids done so that I can go home. Well, that's going to end up creating several problems down the road. Or
you also, I've heard some specialist teachers, on the high school level say they're getting kids that don't want to be in the program.
Well, that's what happens.
That's what happens. Get the kids who want to do it.
That's right.
Talk to the children. They will tell you what they want to do. I tell my students, even in elementary school, when there are things that come up, you don't have to do what you want to do. And they'll say, is it okay if I switch? Like I had one student come to me and say, I know I'm in the media arts, but it's okay if I switch to the percussion. I said, yes. I said, this is not supposed to be anything that you don't want to do. This is supposed to be something you desire, have a passion for right now. So you can change.
Yeah.
And something else that has really been bothering me, and I'm kind of trying to hone in on it with students, is their ability to create, because we are making them robots.
Yeah.
Give them the freedom, to create. Our children, if I let them loose and I say, listen, I want you to create something. I'm going to give you a track. I want you to just go with your flow, whether it's art or whatever. They'll sit there and wait on me to tell them the direction. It's difficult for them to reach inside of themselves and just say, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to create. That is what we have to get back to.
Yeah.
That is what I'm focusing on.
Yeah, I do that quite a bit. I play piano a little bit. And so sometimes I'll jump on the piano and I'll have a kid who might have a little bit of talent on drums. I'll say, hey, jump on the drum set right quick. And then I'll just start playing something and I say, follow me. And then they'll start giving me a little beat and we'll just kind of have some fun with it.
Yeah.
And it's always interesting the first time I do that because they're so apprehensive about really stepping out and just trying something.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And then after a while, you see it's very interesting to watch. They'll literally loosen up and get free and just start trying stuff. And then sometimes I may jump on the drums, and I don't play drums that well, but I can do a little something. And I'll get on there and start, do my little thing, have a little beat going or whatever. And I'm like, okay, try this, do this, do that. And then they'll jump on and start doing stuff, and it becomes this creative process.
The energy in the room. I can't even describe. Yes.
It just moves. And so even like jazz band, I did my first jazz band rehearsal Wednesday, and a lot of the kids were just like reading the chart, reading the music. And I said, okay, let's break away from that. And I started counting stuff off differently than I normally. I was like, and then I'm like, nobody came in. Right? I said, you got to feel the groove. You got to get into it. It's got to be in you. It can't stop. I said, I can have a full-on conversation and go, and then y'all start right back. I said, when you get to that point, you're ready to open up.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
it's just one of those opportunities for us to kind of teach them, what it looks like. A lot of them don't have those examples. But you're right, putting them in the opportunities
Mhm.
to open up and loosen up and create and expand. I've done that with even in the online space. We had Soundtrap, which is a great
Mhm,
music
mhm,
production software program. And I found so many young producers,
mhm.
just teaching those lessons on how to produce music. It is amazing. I had about 6 or 7 that actually produce music and make some really nice stuff. So I did a competition in the spring, and I said the students who do the best, we're going to do a poll in the class, and the ones
Mhm,
who do the best will highlight your songs in the class.
mhm,
And so we went through the whole process, and we ended up having 5 that made it, and we played all 5 of their beats in the class. And you should have seen, because towards the end of the semester, a lot of kids were just keeping their cameras off.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but in this particular lesson, they were cutting their cameras on, and they were like, "That's my beat."
Uh-huh.
You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? And through that experience, I was able to identify those creators that
Yes.
need a different way of learning music education. And it's not going to always be band, chorus, orchestra, dance, art. It might be production.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It
Right.
might be giving a student an opportunity to do a music video. We've done that before where they've got the beat. I've done a lesson one time where I had the kids take a camera. And I said, "All right, let's go for a walk." And we'll go outside, and you take your camera and just videotape whatever you want to video. All right. Then we're going to take this video, we're going to turn the sound off, and we're going to put music to that.
Mhm.
What does that look like? What does that visual sound like musically? And I'd have them actually write down what you think it might sound like, and then we try to come up with an opportunity for you to create what you wrote down. And
Mr.
yeah.
Lyles, since we're on this creators tip here, on Thursday night, I went to a high school here in my town, and it was the senior dance recital.
Mhm.
And I know the dance instructor, and she builds creators. And so this particular recital, she let the children do it. She didn't, the only thing she did was kind of, if they needed some guidance. When I tell you, I was trying to fight back the tears of when you let them loose
Yeah. Yeah.
to create and stop trying to control listen, do, controllers, get rid of it.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that from the upper leaders to us who are the leaders in the classroom. Stop trying to control everything,
Yeah.
because once you do that, you're taking away some of the beauty.
Magic.
Oh
Magic.
my God.
Yeah.
And as educators, we are learning from our students.
That's right.
If they see us be risk takers, because kids know some of those dances I don't know, but I try it. Show me how to do it if it's going to help you,
Right.
and let them. I've had kids say to me, "Can we put this move right here? Can we put this beat right here, Dr. Simmons?" I said, "Let's go with it." So
Mhm.
if you're open to the creativity, you will be amazed at what comes out of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mr. Lyles, I know we're going on and on with this discussion, but before we get off of here, I want you to give parents, other educators, and administrators some points they can do to be supportive of music programs, whether it's band, choral. Let's not just say, let's say the arts. It could be dance, whatever. Some pointers that you can give to be more supportive, and to make our job easier. We want to
Yeah.
do.
I think a simple response, and the easiest I can make it, is to be flexible. And every model is not going to be the same in every
Right.
school. So if you are thinking that you can just do one blanket, hey, I saw this school do that, let's do this, that might not work. I would say start with your in-house arts teachers and ask them and listen to
Listen.
them. Don't just let them talk just so they can feel like they were heard. Actually listen to what they're doing and allow them to tell you what they need, and then on that level have the conversation to where you can actually come to bring it to fruition. So that flexibility piece, sometimes it's not going to always be nice and neat. So I think that if a principal or an administrator, somebody can just look at the program, ask the instructor what they need and what that looks like, and then work with them to roll that out, I think we can make a lot of ground. If somebody's telling you what the problem is, then listen. Just listen.
And
Just listen.
I've said this in years before too. The arts is the core of your other programs.
That's right.
And oftentimes they plan with the other subjects in the middle, and the arts get whatever's left.
Yeah.
But I challenge any administrator on here to look at building from your
arts. That's right.
Branching out.
And branch out.
You will see if you just do what I say now. They fight it though. They don't.
It's hard. It's hard to understand that concept.
I have said this so many times.
Yeah.
Build from that core of your arts program. That the expression, human expression, is one of the most important things you can free people up to do. And so if you start here and then schedule from out, watch the difference. Wonder who's going to take that challenge.
That's right. I'm the one that you'll see the progress, because their program will be like this.
It's going to blow up.
That's right. That's right.
But you got to be a risk taker.
Yeah, you got to be a risk taker, and you're gonna have to roll your sleeves up.
You roll your sleeves up.
It's not going to be an easy job to do it like that, but it's the best way to do it.
It's the best. Let me tell you something. I will challenge whoever does it. I challenge any leader.
Yeah.
And watch what happens to your whole academic program.
That's right. That's right.
Now I'm saying it, and I can stand by those words. Watch what happens to the entire academic program if you just start from that core.
Yeah, because those kids are the ones who are in everything.
Yeah.
So our students are the most complex. We don't do everything just by grade level. It's by ability. And it just requires you to kind of really, it's like a puzzle, and so that's why you have to go through our kids first, because they're going to be your top students in the school. Yeah. They're going to be in your advanced class. They're going to be in your gifted class. They're also going to be in all of the other groups outside of the academics, so we have to consider that first. If you want them to be successful, that fine arts piece is the key to all of that.
We teach children how to think.
That's right. The whole brain. We teach
the whole brain. The whole brain. Mr. Lyles, we'll be on here forever. Mr. Lyles, I thank you so much for coming on here and advocating for us.
Absolutely.
All the art specialists, all the specialist teachers. That's, because it's needed. Who's doing it?
Nobody.
Nobody.
It's time to be respectfully speaking up.
That's right. Respectfully speaking up.
Yes, respectfully speak up. I mean, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I do want to make it known. These are some of the things that have got us in the situation we're in. And if we can just kind of work on those things, I think we all would be pleased with the outcome.
Yeah. And I do want to add this, because it's important. When our children go to college, they're not being competitive because you're not giving them a chance to
That's right.
explore the whole, depth of what they could actually get.
That's right.
And I know it for a fact.
Yeah.
Talked to many students who went to school for music. When they get there, they said, we can't compete with the other states who are teaching their children, who are allowing the arts to be the core. So just think about that.
That's right. That's right.
Think about that.
That's right.
Okay. Mr. Lyles, how can people get in contact with you?
You could find me at my handle on everything, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, is at Brian M. Lyles. That's Twitter, that's Instagram. That's where you can find me if you ever want to reach out to me, or you got some projects or music ideas, or even just some mentorship questions in regards to music education. That's where you can find me, Brian M. Lyles, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
And like I say every week, thank you for joining the Connecting Point. And if you need to reach out to me, you want to be on this platform to discuss anything that's you're passionate about that can inspire others or help change the world in a positive way, reach out to me at integrativearts@att.net or Dr. Marcy's Connections. Go to that website, or Dr. Marcy TS@gmail.com, or you can join the Connecting Point for Creators group on Facebook. Mr. Lyles is a part of the group. We have many creators. That's just a place where we can promote each other, inspire each other to keep moving through this thing called life.
That's right.
And just get some words of inspiration there. So look us up on Facebook, the Connecting Point for Creators group. This show airs on Instagram TV and YouTube on Tuesday nights. And on Wednesday nights, you can see it on KBCN TV at 7:00 p.m. Thank you again, Mr. Lyles. Thank you, audience. And until we get this moment again, peace and blessings.